Okay, so what's different about these fairy tales? Well, they're not fairy tales. They're fairly stupid. Often these tales have terrible endings where the ugly duckling's still an ugly duckling when he grows up. The frog prince is still just a frog, even after the girl kisses him. And the Stinky Cheese man dies in a river. And so they're fairly stupid tales. They're pointless. And what are some of your favorite fairy tales? I know one of mine is Snow White because people always said I look like her. And another is Pinocchio because I just like stories that have boys in them. And Aladdin, stuff that Disney's done. Didn't even throw in the Lion King. And how would you feel if someone changed everything around? What if the story was worse than before? I would be angry. I would just sit there and rewrite it back the way it was. Well, I'm going to read to you Genesis chapter 3. It says, Now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? The woman said to the serpent, We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, You must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die. You will not surely die, the serpent said to the woman. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it. She also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. Then the eyes of both of them were opened, and they realized that they were naked. So they sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. Then the man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord God as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and hid from the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man, Where are you? He said, I heard you in the garden. I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. And he said, Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree that I commanded you not to eat from? The man said, The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it. And the Lord God said to the woman, What is this you have done? The woman said, The serpent deceived me, so I ate it. So the Lord God said to the serpent, Because you have done this, cursed are you above all the livestock and all the wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life, and I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between the offspring and her, your offspring and hers. He will crush your head, and you will strike his heel. To the woman he said, I will greatly increase your pains in childbearing. With pain you will give birth to children. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. To Adam he said, Because you listened to your wife and ate from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. Through painful toil you will eat of it all the days of your life. It will produce thorns and thistles for you, and you will eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your brow you will eat your food, until you return to the ground, since from it you are taken. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. Adam named his wife Eve, because she would become the mother of all the living. The Lord God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife, and clothed them. And the Lord God said, The man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat, and live forever. So the Lord God banished him from the Garden of Eden, to work the ground from which he had been taken. After he drove the man out, he placed on the east side of the Garden of Eden cherubim and a flaming sword flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. And so that's chapter 3 of Genesis. What happened before this chapter? Well, God created the world. He created Adam and Eve, and they were happy, and they could live in their little garden and eat anything they want except for the tree of knowledge. And there was no death. There were no bad things. There was no sin. People didn't even eat meat. They just ate vegetation. What happened after Genesis 3? Well, now people sinned. And now people died. And now people ate meat. And now it was harder to work, and working was no longer a pleasure. So, why was God upset with Adam and Eve for only eating fruit? I mean, of all the things he could have told them not to do, he told them not to eat fruit. Well, God told them that they would die if they ate the fruit. And so, what did the serpent say to Eve? He said, "You won't die." Did God really say that? No. You're going to be like God, knowing good and evil. So who did Eve believe, God or the serpent? Well, she believed the serpent. And another thing is God created them in His image, so they were already like God, and they already knew good and evil. And then Satan was telling them something that they already weren't. That you would be like God, knowing good and evil. Well, they already were like God, knowing good and evil. So, what can we know about Eve from this? Well, one, she didn't believe God. She believed somebody else that told her the opposite of what God said. And how did Adam react to Eve eating the fruit? Well, he just followed along and ate the fruit too. What can we know about Adam from this? Well, he's a wimp. He also wanted to be like God, knowing good and evil, forgetting that he already was like God, knowing good and evil. So it boils down to this. He wasn't just happy with just being like God. He wanted to be God. He wanted to be in control. And so did Eve. And so what then upsets God, and what is sin? Why does God get upset when we sin? Because we're rebelling against Him. We don't want Him as our God. We want to be God. We don't believe what He says. We're going to believe what someone else says because we want to try something and make our own rules and be our own God. So what is sin? Is it bad things? Or is it open rebellion against God, saying, I hate God, I want to be God, I don't believe what He says, and I'm going to do my own thing? That is sin. What did the serpent say would happen when they ate the fruit? Well, you won't surely die. You will be like God and know good and evil. So, that's our lesson for the day. That's how people got the story wrong. And only Jesus can come get it right. So, and we're all stuck in our rebellion against God, wanting to be God and not believing what God says, and wanting to do our own thing until Jesus saves us, until God chooses us and Jesus saves us. The end.